श्रीभगवानुवाच काम एष क्रोध एष रजो गुणसमुद्भवः महाशनो महापात्मा विद्येनमिह वैरिणम्.
Chapter 3, Shloka 37. The Blessed Lord said, "This is desire and its companion, wrath, children of rajas, all devouring, all polluting, are the soul's greatest enemies, to be slain." In the previous shlokas, we understood that first the mind starts almost meditating, almost contemplating with an absorbing interest on the object of desire. And it could even be a human being, a person, an ambition, a goal. And as one focuses on with absorbing interest on that object, attachment forms, desire comes, from desire anger comes, and from anger one's memory of the soul is forgotten. And thereafter there is a degeneration. Now these two, desire and its companion anger, they're children of rajas. It is important to understand what is rajas, and also to understand it from a non-judgmental, non-moralistic perspective. In the Indian society, they have very fixed notions about rajas, tamas, and sattva, bringing purity and balance as the higher of the three gunas. But if we really take a step back and look at all three gunas without attributing a moralistic hierarchy to the three gunas, tamas is inaction, rajas is action, sattva is balanced action, and spiritual action is beyond the three gunas. It is true that the inaction of the tamas brings lethargy, laziness, unwillingness to progress. And it is true, the movement and activity of rajas brings along with it attachment, desire, constant activity, restless activity, activity focused on self-interest and self-aggrandizement. And out of the three gunas, on one hand, you have the tamas lacking in impetus to progress. On the other hand, you have rajas, which is meaningless, constant, restless activity focused on the self, the ego self. Now, out of these two pulls and pushes, we have the sattva, which has the quality of lightness, quality of purity, quality of balance to it. Now, of course, from that perspective, it is better to have an opening to sattva than to be lost in the movements of rajas and tamas. But nothing in creation exists without a reason. Rajas, activity, action, movement, when it is turned towards the divine, when it is purified in its energy, can become a strong dynamic force at the service of a higher purpose. So, even behind rajas, there is something which is divine. And even as sattva, which is the highest of the three gunas, is, of course, purer, lighter, more balanced than the other two gunas, but it is also not the ultimate. The spiritual action is beyond the sattva. So with these two understandings in the background, let us look at the rajas, which is the father of desire and wrath. Now, how does rajas bring about desire and wrath? Rajas, on one hand, is restless activity, constant activity, inability to slow down, inability to stop, wanting to constantly do one thing or the other. And then it is an impure energy, which means it's a very self-centered energy. And when I say self-centered energy, many times the self-centeredness, it's not quite visible. Because one may be thinking, feeling, believing, oh, I'm serving the mother. Oh, I'm serving a social cause. Oh, I'm serving a spiritual cause. But hiding behind it could be ambition. And ambition need not always be for oneself. It could be an ambition for the collective. It could be an ambition for the divine also. So it's really an impure energy which has ego at its very center, often hidden, that is constantly restless. It's a very prone energy. Prone to what? Prone to getting attached to the fruits of one's work. Because it does it for oneself. It sees itself as the doer of everything. It does it for oneself. It wants things for oneself. And it grows very passionate about acquiring that thing. And when it does not get fulfilled. It is frustrated, it is angry. So it's important to recognize this energy in ourselves. Of course, in Kauravas, this energy is in a very, very exaggerated manner. But this energy exists inside of all of us. And this energy has to be purified and put at the service of the divine's work. Another mistake on the spiritual path is to shun away this energy which brings action, energy, dynamism, energy in motion, emotion. Because one fears the attachment, the obsessiveness that this energy can potentially bring. But this energy has to be purified and then put at the service of a higher purpose. Once it is purified, it is balanced and put at the service of a selfless cause and purpose, truly selfless cause and purpose. It's a very powerful, dynamic energy and movement. But until that point, it is dangerous. And just because it's dangerous doesn't mean that we put a lid on this energy and pursue sattva for its own sake. The energy has to be embraced, but it has to be purified of desire. The desire has to translate and transform itself into a selfless aspiration. Aspiration of self-giving. Aspiration's energy is how can I serve? Desire's energy is how can I be served? And desire makes the entire story about I, me, myself. Sometimes it makes the story around I, me, myself, in which I is superior than the others. Sometimes it makes the story around I, me, myself, and the I is inferior to others. That's much more of a tamasic tendency. But either way, both are not healthy. Because it is pulling things towards oneself. And like Sri Krishna says, that's the death of the soul. That is really like it clouds the soul. It clouds soul's lightness and self-giving. So it's not just about whether am I serving an ethical cause, whether am I working for an organization with divine motives and values, while all of that is also extremely important. What is the energy through which I'm serving? If that energy is of rajas, it is still about you. Tamas will make you not believe in yourself. Rajas, behind its garb of service and self-giving, it is all about oneself. What do I get? So purification, shuddhi, extremely, extremely important to actually rid oneself of anger. Otherwise, all kinds of anger management, counting till 100, all of that, it manages anger. Behind anger is desire. Behind desire is ego. Now, having said that, a lot of women in particular, they're used to suppressing their anger. And when I am speaking of behind anger, there's desire, behind desire, there's ego. I don't want, if you are listening as a woman, to start feeling that, oh, anger is bad and I'm not allowed to have it. Because anyway, you've probably grown up listening that anger is bad and you're not allowed to have it. And so you've been suppressing it. And perhaps tolerating things that you shouldn't be tolerating. That's a misunderstanding of the shloka. Anger is not bad in itself. Many times anger is an indicator that something is not okay. Some aspiration, some value that you hold dearly is getting violated. And anger comes because for a long time you haven't been paying attention to your value, to your aspiration that has been getting violated. And thus it suddenly comes in the form of anger. But if in anger we can put aside the bad will and just concentrate on what is the need, what is the aspiration behind anger? And can I just attend to that in the purest, highest way? Can I just listen to what is behind anger and not allow this energy to corrupt my consciousness? No, I'm not telling you to act out of anger, because anger also fundamentally has behind it rajas and a certain force of bad will. You must always act out of a space of inherent, true, deep goodwill. And as you act out of an inherent good, deep goodwill, everything will begin to fall in place. So, on one hand, allowing oneself to be dictated by anger, to be led by anger, is one of the most stupid things that one can do. On the other hand, if anger comes, it's an opportunity to look within, to see what is the desire behind it. And behind the desire, what is an actual true aspiration? And how can I purify myself of desire and head to the actual true aspiration? For instance, my aspiration may be to serve the divine, to serve Aurobindo. My ambition may be that I want to create a city for the mother in the next 5 years. And my anger could be that why are these people not allowing me to create a city? Anger reveals a lot about you, a lot about the situation, if one just knows how to step back and to be able to observe. It tells you, oh, I have the aspiration in the right place, but maybe the ambition I've set is a bit misplaced. It is not acknowledging or taking into account the actual lived reality of people on ground, or the pace at which things are working right now. This is, however, not to say that one must not have goals. One must have goals. And actually, goals and planning can also be done through the divine force and the divine will inside of you. An indicator of a planning done through the divine force and the divine will inside of you is harmony. It is a force of harmony. It will not make you feel like you're going against a wall. Even if you're going against a wall, it will feel like a cakewalk of harmony. Harmony is that force of the Mother Divine that puts each thing in its right place at the right time, in the right way, through the right being. So, a misunderstanding would be not to have goals on the spiritual path because one is wanting to purify oneself of desire. No, there is a true goal that can be set. The important thing is, how do you be free of attachment? Attachment to doership and attachment to the fruit of one's work. Then one can act and do the thing that needs to be done, including building the city, but without anger, without moralistic judgments, about oneself or the others, without desire, without attachment. It's also important to notice, how the shloka talks about how desire and anger pollutes the inner environment. Because a lot of time when one gets angry, one gets stuck into who is right, who is wrong. Even if you're right, the other is wrong. Your inner environment is getting polluted. It is getting devoured. That's the ultimate thing that hides your soul. So it is not for the sake of the other that you let go of anger. You let go of anger for the sake of your own inner purity and self-giving and welcoming of the divine impetus and the divine love in your heart. Because many people for whom justice is very important, they keep clinging on to anger. And sometimes behind that anger may be a desire for a beautiful world. But even a noble cause as that of a beautiful world, if the energy that pursues it is through desire, it is polluted. There is a divine Shakti, there is the divine Mother, who's working through things in a timescape of thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Our lifetime is a speck in her will and her movement. We ought to trust that she is moving the entire world and the creation towards its divine realization. And there is nothing to hurry about, to worry about. Allow yourself to relax and let go, and allow her to shape the goals and the movements of your life. Allow her to do the planning of your life through you. She is the force of harmony. Each thing at its right place, at the right time, in the right way, for the right cause and purpose. Thank you. With that, I would love to hear what touched you, what moved you in the comments below, and I shall see you in the next video.
I hope you found the video to be useful. If you would like to continue your journey with us, if you would like to help us support you in your journey, click on the link below and join us for a 2.5-hour signature masterclass called the Awakening Karma Yogi Workshop, where we run you through the fundamental stages of awakening to become a Karma Yogi, to be peaceful inside and successful outside. We talk about Swabhava, our true nature, and Swadharma, our soul's purpose, which are the building blocks of a life affirming, not a life negating spirituality. So if you found this video to be useful, click on the link below and I shall see you at the workshop.